Good day viewers, welcome and welcome to yet another edition of D-Steak. I like to talk about our economy, I like to talk about social issues, I like to talk about socioeconomics. What are we doing? How can we do it better? And today, the issue of aid, the issue of dependency, the issue of self-reliance has been bugging my mind because I've been reading a book by David Henley talking about the development divergence between Asia and Africa. And this book makes a lot of sense because you look at Singapore, independent, same year as the Gambia. Singapore, then what we call GNI, a gross national index, now called GDP, same as the Gambia in the 60s, two poor countries. Fast forward, 2018, Singapore's doing great, and where's Gambia? Probably the same place we left off on the race towards development and bettering our people. So you ask yourself, what has Singapore done that Gambia didn't do? Well, Singapore took the word self-reliance and made a Bible out of it, and their lives and livelihood revolved around the word self-reliance. Unfortunately, for Gambia, we took dependency and donor-driven economy as our Bible. That's why there's a stark difference between these two nations. Anyway, we're in 2018. It's not the fault of this government that Gambia is highly donor dependent. It's not the fault of the last republic, even though Yahya Jammeh has plundered and looted this country, that Gambia was donor dependent. It was not the first republic's fault either, but it was the way we modeled our economy. Our economy has been modeled from 65 to date to be dependent on exogenous factors, external factors, for our lives, livelihoods, and development. If tourists don't come to Gambia, we suffer. If we don't export, we suffer. If we don't get aid from the West, we suffer. That's not going to take Gambia out of the mess we find ourselves. See, nation building is a sacrifice. This sacrifice has an opportunity cost. A good life that you cannot sustain but keep on borrowing at the expense of the future, or a sacrifice, let a generation of Gambians swallow the bitter pill so that subsequent generations of Gambians can have a better life. The choice is ours and that of our generation, because Gambia is at a crossroads. Gambia has gotten to a point we need to decide whether business as usual need to continue or we need to make a U-turn and make this country what it ought to be and what the citizenry deserve. Having said that, the Gambia came up with a strategic plan called the National Development Plan. This is a continuation of the page, and the page was a continuation of the PRSP, which was a continuation or an extension of the SPA, Strategy for Poverty Alleviation. So for the past 18 years almost, we've been living on borrowed time, borrowing and begging, borrowing and begging. Can we stop this? The answer is yes. When can we stop it? The answer is now. How can we stop it? Create initiatives that's going to make our economy inward-looking and organic. Nothing wrong with importing, nothing wrong with exporting, and nothing wrong with going outside and borrowing to build a country. But you see, there's a moral hazard to borrowing and there's a moral hazard to begging. Therefore, the people of this great republic, the people of this fine country we call the Gambia, need to take a critical look inward as a people. Do we deserve better? If the answer is yes, we need to do what it takes to prove that we deserve better. The president and his team just left the Gambia for Brussels. Good, I'm happy that they've gone to Brussels. But what are we going to do at Brussels? A donor round table conference. What's a donor round table conference once again? A donor round table conference basically is a conference where we go and sit down around a round table, begging once again, but with programs. But unfortunately, the pittance we're going to get out of these donor conferences is not going to help Gambia transform into a middle-income country, nor is it going to help Gambia get out of the beggar mentality we found ourselves. Therefore, I don't have a problem with the donor roundtable, but I have a problem with our national economic model. What's wrong with our national economic model? Like many countries that emerged out of colonialism, we continued where the colonials left off. The colonials had an extractionary economic model, meaning their economic model centered around taking from our societies rather than building our societies. Well, unfortunately, our forefathers, though sophisticated, never got to see what we see in them taking away from our economy. 2018, we still have an extractionary economic model. That's not going to take us out of this beggar mentality we find ourselves. Going forward, Gambia cannot do it alone, but I think it should be an African initiative. But an initiative must start somewhere, and it has to be driven by champions. And I think small states like Gambia should be the champions to say, let's encourage intra-African trade. Let's encourage intra-African cooperation. Let's encourage regional corporations and common markets and start taking care of ourselves rather than leveraging our lives to others to decide whether they're going to give us 5 or they're going to give us 10. See, life comes with dignity, and the African and the Gambian, to be particular, needs to have a dignified life. And a dignified life can't come our way if we keep on begging. All the colonials have done to us, all that the Western nations have done to us, is to keep us in perpetual poverty. Well, the time has come for us to open our eyes, know that our solution is not westward looking, but rather inward and country looking. We need to look inside. Yes, we are theoretically poor. I think we have what it takes to get out of poverty. Starts with good leadership. Starts with a tactical plan and a sustainable trajectory to the tactical plan. We need vision, we need foresight, and we need guts. Please, Gambians, let's think out of the box for once and say to ourselves, if we want to cut this dependency syndrome, we need to sacrifice. But what's the sacrifice? Well, as far as I'm concerned, the sacrifice starts with a generation of Gambians saying, we will swallow the bitter pill so that subsequent generations of Gambians can have a better life. And what is that bitter pill? Restructure our economy. What's that bitter pill? Work harder. What's that bitter pill? Say that we are not beggars and we are dignified and we deserve a better life, and no one will give us a better life but ourselves. If my generation, our generation, the present generation of Gambian take that responsibility to heart and start devising programs and projects to alleviate poverty within our midst, to inspire Gambians to bolster our self-esteem, to tell us that we are not beggars and we weren't meant to be beggars, and we can come out of this beggar situation we find ourselves. Then we'll begin to change the misery that the Gambian is going through. Be it the World Bank, be it the IMF, be it the UN, be it the Paris Club, nobody will give us a silver platter as it relates to development. Our future is in our hands. What we do with it depends on us. What we don't do with it, it's our fault. Therefore, my fellow citizens, my fellow compatriots, I urge each and every one of us, for once, to state that we deserve better as a people, and we want to change the culture of dependency, especially the dependency on Western states and nations to give us our lives and livelihoods. Basically, a national budget is equivalent to a household's budget. Imagine me having a household and having to rely on others to sustain my household's budget. I'm doomed. And that's where Gambia finds itself, because without budget support, this government is literally bankrupt. Without budget support, the government cannot sustain its activities and its fiscal operations. That is not what's going to take us out of this. Let's revisit, look at our economic base, look at what we can sustainably have a livelihood out of, what we can finance ourselves. We should say thank you to donors. Enough is enough. It's been 53 odd years. Let us take care of ourselves. Let us manifest our destiny, and let us take care of country. So let my generation, our generation, do that sacrifice to cut the yoke of dependency, because it's just not dignified. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of receiving handouts. It's not going to take us far. No one will do it for us. We have to. And I urge every Gambian to wake up and say, yes, politics is good, but self-determination is what will make our politics better. Self-determination, basically in Wolof, says, Mom sa bopa, mun sa bopa, gom sa bopa. This is what I expect of an independent state. Our independence is a paradox. Paradox in the sense that we call ourselves an independent nation, yet still we wake up, extend an arm for a handout. Enough of that handout. Time to build a nation organically, time to build a nation inward-looking, and time to build a nation by Gambians, for Gambia, and for future generations of Gambians. So, no to aid, especially tide aid. No to handouts. It's not dignified. We should stand tall. We should be proud, because we are proud people from proud descendants and of great heritage. And we weren't meant to be beggars. Let's stop this begging. We can have an economy that can sustain our livelihoods, provided we cut our cloth according to our size. Provided we have a realistic trajectory towards our development aspirations. Provided we have leadership that can inspire us. Provided we can instill good morale and work ethic in our people to increase our productivity and grow our economic base. That's the Gambia I want to see, and that's the Gambia we deserve. We have a a youth dividend, a demographic cluster who are the majority of this country and yet still the most that are non-productive because of structural unemployment. Structural unemployment. Unemployment because of the way the economy is. We change the model and the dynamics, our youths will be gainfully employed. But we need to instill dignity in hard work. We need to instill and inculcate dignity in sweating. Then we will get off this beggar mentality. Gambia deserves better, and the begging and the donor syndrome we have must stop. Even the donors, they have what you call donor fatigue. They're sick and tired of giving. So, since we're independent people, let's have an independent life. We do for us and take care of us. Till I come your way, this was D-State once more. Thanks.